Good afternoon, team. We're joined today for the third installment of our November Arts and Music Moya Talks by Howard University graduate Jessica Teachey, uh, who has joined us from the musicianship, where she manages, plans, oversees, and executes musicianship's most public facing events like the Whimsy Awards, the DC Funk Parade, and the Washington Youth Corps. Welcome, Jessica. It's really a pleasure to have you and that you accepted the invitation.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for having me today. I'm honored.
Jessica, so you are a Howard University graduate. We have a few in the staff who are also Howard U alumni. So let's start with some local questions.
Okay.
How did growing up in a city with the musical tradition of DC influence you?
So honestly, I kind of got to cheat a little bit in childhood. I grew up a military brat. My father was in the United States Marine Corps, and so growing up, I had the opportunity to actually move about the Eastern Seaboard a little bit more than some of my colleagues and classmates, and so my father is huge into music, played a huge role in his life and many aspirations he didn't get to follow in the military. And so I think having two young kids, when he would come home off of the ships or off of his orders, our house was always filled with music. So I remember very vividly being stationed at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. And I remember the day my dad brought home Mary J. Blige's Was the 411 album. He had the huge big box stereos that he had shipped back from overseas. And I mean, he played that thing from forward to backwards. And I want to say those were some of the just earliest times that I started gravitating to music because it felt very freeing being able to like enjoy that with my dad whenever he came home. And you can fast forward that to us making our way to Norfolk, Virginia around 95, 96. And that was kind of when the bad boy era was, coming in. And, you have Notorious Big and Little Kim and Diddy. Mind you, at the time, I'm too young to even track that he went to Howard. That was just something ironic that I'd find out later when I got older. But by the time Bad Boy Records had hit the scene in rap and hip hop, it was over for me. I had already started dreaming about what types of things that I could do. But honestly, none of it would come to fruition until I made it to Howard's campus.
And how then you become interested in this as a profession?
Yeah, it was so funny because when I first got to Howard, everyone on my life knew me as an athlete. I don't play any musical instruments outside of the recorder. I'll join my nieces on a little tambourine every now and again. But in terms of real instruments, I'm not a performer myself. But when I got to Howard, my best friend Asha Santi, who is out on tour right now drumming for R&B superstar Moya, so shout outs to her. Um,
Wow.
and also her duo Boom Scat. Once we got linked together at Howard, we started a musically inspired clothing line called Note to Self. And I wrote our business plan overnight, one day in the dorms. And that's a brand that's still standing today, 14 years later. And so that's honestly a huge accomplishment that we would not have had without support from people like the late great Melanie Walker and Eldridge Allen. These are all people that were based out of Howard's Entrepreneurship Leadership Institute, where millions of dollars was fused into the campus to help us actualize more entrepreneurial dreams and goals that we had. And so we knew music was a vehicle that could, change things, that could help people with self-esteem, mental health. I mean, we already use it for entertainment, right? But we knew that it could have a really awesome hold on the clothing line. And so that was really when stuff started percolating as far as my career.
Tell us a little bit more about that brand and how
Note
you.
to self.
Yes.
So in 2007, Asha began painting, like hand painting shirts for friends and for people on campus. And a lot of this came out of the need for her to have musically inspired clothing that wasn't always athletically based, right? We were
Mm.
athletes. And so everything's Nike, everything's Jordan, everything's Adidas, but she didn't have anything in her closet that reflected her love and her passion for music. And so she actually literally just started hand painting her own shirts. And so once they started gaining popularity on campus, And we now have, Divine Nine organizations that want us to design their shirts. Now we have every campus fashion show that wants to feature us because they want gear that's curated to their missions. We started winning business plan competitions over and over because that same business plan, excuse me, that I wrote, it was pretty sound. So we started quickly coming into mind with a lot of like money and influence and support behind what was really a small campus run brand, like literally out of Asha's dorm room. And so, yeah, it was really exciting running that ride and learning so much of what I learned working in apparel and music through that partnership.
That's great. That didn't come up when I was doing my research.
Yeah, look, I was gonna say that's back in the archives.
Yeah, 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 but you need to share that content with us.
Lives I've lived here now.
And through this process, how did you develop your interest of helping you development through the art and through the music?
So I was always one of those young people who had been working with youth since I was a youth, right? But most of it was rooted in athletics. So I had a long career of coaching, moving across the country, doing that for different entities, local and international. And so I already had an affinity to work with young people. At the time, I was also building a career in an interest for youth development, but what I call the very beginning, which is my love for little infants and little babies. And so by the time you fast forward to about, I want to say it was 2016, I was working with a Howard classmate of mine named Greg Watkins, and he needed help with a choir. It was a choral program that he felt like was getting ready to die out. And he said, you got to understand, these children are absolutely phenomenal. Their voices can't be silenced. Like, I need your help. And you're the type of person that I need to look at this and figure out what we need to do. Mind you, we have another classmate at the same time named Jeffrey Tribble, who had started this really phenomenal nonprofit called the Musicianship that all of us as classmates were already supporting annually because they put on this really cool recital called Diane's Recital. And every summer, these kids came together to put on this amazing concert. And, it was something that we attended and went because, everyone loves Jeff. I was really inspired by Diane Granger, the organization's late co-founder, because she played in the band at Howard University with my older brother. So it was a lot of like come to circle moments. And I said, I have an idea. You need help with this choir. I went to that recital of Jeff's and I think he needs help with his choir. And so I said, let me get him on the phone. And he goes, no, no, no. Jeff is way too busy. There's no way we should bring anything like this. This is going to be a huge headache. And I said, no, it's actually not. And so I got Jeff on the phone and I said, hey, congratulations on that summer recital, but do you want to inherit a multi-million dollar program? And he's like, what are you talking about? And it was kind of history from there. We got everyone together, including the founder of Washington Youth Choir, Dr. Joyce Garrett of Alfred Street Baptist Church over in Alexandria, Virginia. And that summer in 2016, we sat down. I pretty much, laid out the merger, facilitated it for the organization, for Dr. Garrett, and also for Greg to now come home to the musicianship. And it was when we really kicked off the new rebranding of the choir and its resurgence and availability for youth and children to participate. And so it was just a couple short years later when the kids were on stage with India Aries. So, like I said, shout out to Jeffrey Tribble, our former executive director, and Greg Watkins, who's over at National Cathedral, because they all had the vision and kind of followed me and allowed me to kind of, steer them to home. And it's kind of history now at this point.
So that's when you started working for the musicianship.
Yep. And
You
I've been here
joined the
ever
team.
since. Yeah. And we're going on almost 6 years here now.
Right. For the audience who may not know what the musicianship does, could you describe the institution, the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So, at our core, the musicianship is a youth development organization, and we use music as a vehicle to change the life trajectories of the students that we serve. And so, we use music in its mentorship methods, very early immersion methods, to help as young as elementary school age children start to learn and think about the ways that, they can be participatory, they can be active, they can be happy, and they can be involved in things that are happening at school, right? I think we all can look back to when we were younger, right? And there were music immersion programs in all of our schools. They were actually a part of the requirement, right? Those things are changing. And so, what the musicianship started out doing was being a supporting organization that could go back to schools and recreation site partners and develop more programs that can help young to middle aged children change their lives and learn about the music industry and music opportunities around them. Now, fast forward to the last 5 to 6 years, we were able to acquire brands like the Whammy Awards and the DC Funk Parade, which were storied legacy events here in our area. And what we decided to do was to not only preserve those events because they were in danger of closing and going away as well, instead of letting them shelter and shutter them down, what we decided to do was acquire those programs, refine them and re-update them, for the new millennium in music, but then use them as leverage to help support and fundraise for our free music education programs that go to young people. So through those acquisitions, pretty much, we were able to create kind of like a full cycle of development, right? And activities and participation, where now we have adult audiences that are coming together to educate, to entertain, to empower each other, but then to also do what they can to fundraise for the next generation that's going to be coming up right behind them. And so we just get to work on that cycle and those programs and the people that want to be involved with those here in the region each year.
My next question, you basically answered it.
Mhm.
The Your talent is apparent, but I have to ask again: how do you connect with the community to revamp these projects?
So I think for me, of course, I have like a natural head start, right? I grew up in this community. I consider, even being a military child, I consider DC. This is where I'm from. It's the community that raised me up to be the woman that I am today. And I know that being a young Black queer woman, right, just how many more young women or young people feel and look like me. I come from, sad to say, a neighborhood and a class of education, of public school education, I will say, where there were literally staff members who looked at me and told me I would be dead before I was 25 years old. And here I am today at 35 and on this call with you. So I'm very much what I consider to be a success story that the country never wanted. And a success story that has a responsibility to get back to more young people to show them that this is possible and that this can happen. And so for me at the musicianship, my talents from so many different industries, I knew that the best way that they're actually used and the best way that they're actually applied is to show more young people that you can be exactly who you are. You can do the types of things that you want, and you can still succeed in the industry that you have connections to. Going to Howard, it just put the icing on the cake, right? Behind ownership of that and behind having history, right? Even more knowledge. I grew up here all my life, but it wasn't until after coming through Howard that I actually started learning the history of neighborhoods like Black Broadway, really learning the history of what's happened in neighborhoods like Congress Heights, all the way from, the Anacostans touching down to what we see today. Getting the chance to be educated at an HBCU and then connected to the music industry here in this region, that just, it kind of gives me a leg up in the type of engaging that I do with people, because it's very genuine, and it comes from the heart.
One of the projects that the musicianship has taken on
Mhm.
are the Whammy Awards. You want your setup to return in March 2022.
Yeah.
What are the Whammy Awards and how
So
can the public participate?
The Whammy Awards are really exciting. The Whammy Awards are the same age as me. And so to be this young and responsible for an award show that has so much longstanding history in the area is something that we take very, very important. Pretty much the Whammy Awards is an award show that recognizes the best in music performance and community work here in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And so we manage and execute about 60 to 63 different awards that cover 25 different genres and then 6 areas of community interest. And the reason why this award show is so important is because it actually engages the public and the community to nominate and bring these individuals forward. Historically, this award show was one that was built on the financial opportunity for people to be able to afford membership dues to bring and recognize these people. Well, after we got a chance to review the award show's platform, we realized that was keeping so many people out of the recognition portal, right? And off of the stage. And so you have individuals who, rightfully are great musicians, but were only being awarded year after year because there was a very small pool of people who were allowed to make the decision. And we just felt like that wasn't fair because Washington, D.C., as a metropolitan region, is absolutely on the map for music. The amazing people that come out of here, even over the last 10 years, the boom of millionaires that we've seen come out of the rap and hip hop industry or go on and to do greater things. We have just as much to claim for music as Austin does and as Nashville does. And people are going to get mad at me, but yes, New York and LA. I am tired of seeing phenomenal artists and people feel like home's not gonna do enough for me. Home doesn't recognize or care about me. So I've got it. I'm leaving on a jet plane and I don't know if I'll ever be back again. That's what, DC does, to our homegrown artists because we're so political, we're so government and we're so educational. And we see the Whammy Awards as like a torch and a way to bring the voice back to the public. You guys are out here at the shows. You guys are streaming the music online. Who is it that's doing it the best for DC every year? So now, starting December 1st, the public gets to nominate these folks and people and bring them to the forefront. They get to vote on them, right, to create a pool of finalists. And then we're able to engage over 75 different music industry professionals who work here in the region to actually score the premise and the promise on the work that has been brought forward. And so I've been getting a lot of emails. People are sending me their music. They send me their kits, and I think they're a little confused. They think we're like the Grammys. No shade to the Recording Academy, but no, this is not, this small little club of us in our back offices saying who's the best in choosing. It is a platform that we actually use with technology to take in the thousands of nominations that we get. We do have eligibility requirements that we work on each year with other steering committee members and those from the public, even people like you, could join our steering committee and give your expertise, right, and your opinion to how this can continue to be a fair system. But our goal is to really use this show is to start creating leverage and opportunities for musicians and artists, for as young as the high school students that we work with who are preparing, right, and delivering music, right? A 16-year-old does not have to walk into Universal Music Group to drop an album, right? Nobody has to do that anymore. And so for us, it's about creating leverage. So iTunes and Spotify and Warner Music Group and all of these individuals start to respect and revere the DMV a little bit more for the talent that we have. So hopefully on December 1st, you all will go and start bringing forth some nominations for work in music released in 2021 that we get to highlight through the Whammy Awards.
Great. First of all, I love how you actually weave John Denver in your answer. That is great.
Thank you.
And second of all, share your hype a little bit more. Tell us which bands, which artists do you think are great right now in the city?
So everyone asked me to do that, and I'll tell you this is absolutely impossible to do. We cover 25 different genres, as I expressed here in the DMV, and so before I highlight any individual over the other, because there's just no equal way to do that for their genres, what I will do is press upon the public of the genres that we see needing more support.
Yeah.
And more voice. And so we are looking to connect with more individuals in our Latinx communities because we notice that that is a community that is not being recognized and brought forward for their history and their presence in our city. And so, for example, tonight I'll be at Bossa listening to live Brazilian jazz so I can learn a little bit more. Shout out to Lucas Ashby and Elin. I'll be there tonight learning a little bit more about that genre in our area, right? And how countries like, Ecuador and Panama and Colombia, how these individuals are right here in our community and making strides, but need more help and more support. I want to know how the Whammy Awards can do that for them. Now, of course, I can sit here and tell you all day long that Desang Washington won last year, right, for the Best Latin Award, but what's more important to me is that more bands are nominated and brought forward. And so I'll say that same thing about reggae music. I'll say that same thing about gospel and inspirational music. We want to meet and connect with more people who are in these genres, and not just in DC. We also cover 7 different counties in Maryland and 5 to 6 different counties in Virginia too. And so it's about creating a more unified effort so that those who feel like they haven't had a way to be recognized, they actually come and they're recognized. So if you're under the sound of my voice and you have shows in places where we can visit and we can learn more about who just needs that opportunity, I'm going to kind of put that right back on the community so we know where to be, because we are not the experts at all. We are just the support. We are just the platform that's here to make sure that those who need a voice, need a stage, and need a mic, you finally get it.
Love it, love it, love it. How does this connect with your community work with kids? How do students benefit?
So I think one of the most exciting reasons why we've grown at the musicianship is our ability to put youth participation and youth voice first. Our summer program, in partnership with the Department of Employment Services and the Mary and Barry Summer Youth Employment Program, actually pays over 150 students to come together and in 6 different disciplines produce and put on their own concert in 6 weeks. That's Diane's recital that I mentioned earlier. That was what brought the popularity to the musicianship, because everybody goes, oh my God, who in the world could do that with today's teenagers? And what we want to show and press upon is we're not giving them enough voice. We're not giving them enough place and presence in this world. This young generation came into a world that was already done, and we handed them something like this and said, go sit down. And now everyone's concerned about why these kids don't see themselves participating live in this world. And it's because we told them everything's already done. Go sit down. And we as the musicianship, actually, we're millennials. We're kind of in the middle, right? We remember what it was like to learn with our elders hands on, because we were given space, and we were given voice, and we were given an opportunity to be hands on and learn. I remember being one of the young people to install software on the computers at my school because none of the people knew how to do it. And now, you know what I mean? Guess what we're telling them? Put your electronics away, sit down, be quiet, get my worksheet and fill it out. And the youth are tired. They're sick of it. They're sick of it. And at the musicianship, we said, you know what? Everybody move out of the way. Give them the camera. Give them the curtains. If you come to our recital, you'll probably hear me in the back. Curtains! Because there's a kid back there trying to really learn how he gets those things timed just right for the recital. But I tell that funny story to say we got out of the way and we gave them a space and an opportunity. And that's what we are committed to continuing to doing. So when we're having conversations with the mayor's office, and when we're having conversations with arts partners, and we're having conversations even with the Fortune 500 companies who want to come in and find out how they can participate in strengthening youth, it's always to make sure that they're getting hands on to do the things that they want to do, learn the things that they want to learn, so they can finally start to actualize and see themselves living and breathing in a part of this world that matters to them. Not something someone else dictated for them, not someone else showed them to. And through music, there's so many different ways to be creative, with young people, whether they're on the stage or erecting the stage, whether they're in front of the camera or whether they're taking the content from the camera and helping produce the slides for the next show. And so we are just unique, and we're only special, like I said, because we were humble enough and patient enough with our young people to give them a little bit more voice and participation in what development is being considered. And so I think if you talk with any young person who graduated from our programs, that's the reason why they say they would always come back, or that's the reason why we can always call them and count on them to do something for us in the future. And so with any time that I have, I'm always just trying to impact to others, to do that with a young person that's in your life or under your leadership.
Praise that. That's great. Okay, I'm going to open the floor because I know the staff may have a couple of questions before we close the interview. People, you're free to speak.
Hi everyone, I'm Al Good. Hi, how you doing? Jessica, wow, I love your energy and excitement and your whole thing. And my question to you is this. Let's start off with there is no go-go unless there's DC. So that's the start. And so what I'm wondering, and you said there's 25 genres that you're going through. So what's the next DC sound? What I love about DC, it's a fusion of cultures and people, and it's probably one of the most diverse cities in our country. And is that what you see? Is there a Latin mix with go-go that's mixing with classic? What is the next DC sound? What's the
So
next
I'm
go-go?
I'm going to be very transparent with you all. There is no next DC sound simply because of the reparations due to the go-go genre. What
Yeah.
we are seeing now in the late 2000s or the 2020s is now go-go is the official music, right, of Washington D.C. as of last year. Now go-go is finally receiving the recognition and the cultural history and preservation that it has deserved. Now go-go is finally getting an opportunity to take the front stage, but that has not been the case over the last 25 years. There has been a war
Right.
on go-go for the last 25 years, right? And so, in my personal opinion, and even in a bit of our organization's opinion, there's still so much to be done in the funding and the support of, for
Mm.
example, Ward 7 and 8, where very many of our go-go partners reside right now. I just don't believe in there being a next sound until we finally do what is necessary to preserve and prepare our original sound for what's to come over the next 20 to 25 years. And so those are the types of programs and opportunities and partners and things that the musicianship supports. Because, like I said, I haven't played a congo a day in my life, but all of my classmates did. There's many young bands that should have been already recognized by the Whammy Awards, but haven't been done so. And so a lot of, like I said,
Right.
my work will be to ensure that as our, home known genre, we do due diligence by ensuring that those icons and those historic legends are constantly brought forward and are continued to be educated and prepared for what they get to do on behalf of the globe, going out on behalf of go-go and music here in DC.
Yeah. And as a follow-up question, that's exactly. I would like to see the school systems um, correlate our history and music and how music and history have evolved together and that's the beauty I loved about go-go is that it really kind of when you listen to it and back in the day it told you the story of DC as much as it did told the people about the people in it, and the evolution of music. I think is so beautiful in that, and I would love that maybe even in the history and civics classes in high schools and all, that they get a musical flair into it and say this was what was going on in the culture, and this is how music responded to history and how history responded to music. And I was
No,
wondering if that's what your organization tries to do as well. That it's not just the talented people that we all get to enjoy.
No, absolutely. I want to give a shout out to our partners at DCPS Music and historical preservation partners like the Go-Go Museum, Ron Moten, Natalie Hopkinson, Yadia of Long Live Go-Go, Kelsey of Mumbo Connection. These are things that are already, efforts and working on. Even Shaleigh Hainsworth of Black Broadway. A lot of these things are happening, but I think they get to happen in a larger fashion, in a more organized and formidable fashion for our young people to digest. So yes, you hit the nail on the head of some amazing things to come that we're working on.
Great. Jessica, we have time for one more question for the staff and then a
Great.
last question that I have to ask you. So people, don't be afraid.
No, I was just going to ask. I mean, you're talking about digital devices and music creation and kind of like getting out of the way, trying to just let the kids create. As you mentioned, like our generation also, we kind of were the ones installing that software and trying to making like the. So at what point, like when you say getting out of the way, I assume that also includes there is some using the digital tools as well. And how do you let that shine at the same time, not just having the kids restricting them to that they can't explore and like be creative and not just watch YouTube.
Right. So for us, I think what's integral is not only having a curriculum and a plan, right? But most education, their curriculums will start from a lecture standpoint, right? Because that somehow has become the most accepted set bar for education. I don't know how that happened. Everyone does not learn that way, especially young kids, like in, young people. And so one of the first things that we do when it comes to our curriculum building is it's reduced. It's reduced to necessity, not to the educator's ego. Okay? That's another thing. You know what I mean? We really work hard to ensure that the educators and the industry persons that we're bringing into our entity are fully understanding of what it is their requirement to do. It is to achieve actual comprehension of this topic and of this subject versus check and tick marks, right? Of things that I've covered in talking, right? Your curriculum and your evaluations are based on, can these students physically do what you began and set out to show them how to do? And that may require you in, lesson number one, stepping back because Johnny already has a Mac at home. Johnny already kind of gets an idea of what's going on. So as an educator, you must be prepared to shift, make room, get out of the way, and then now lead Johnny in a different perspective while you can continue to get the rest of the room caught up with Johnny. But guess what? That also means you get to use Johnny as a resource, right? To help the other students in the room. See, these are the things that people are fearing to allow to happen in public school systems because it is a release of control, because it is an opportunity where you must have trust in the actual education relationship versus dictatorship of telling you to go sit down, stop talking to your classmate, stop working with them, do it on your own. Do y'all see the difference?
Yeah.
So it's the way that you must approach, how do you want these young people together, and how much of your ego or your need to control gets in the way of accomplishing the goal of that curriculum. We are only blessed here at the musicianship because I have the ability to sit down and tell a group of educators that, and then they're able to use their best understanding as former music students, right? And as current industry professionals to know when to lean and set that bar. So yes, in 2017, when I took all 160 of those children and I took them to the National Mall so that they could perform on the steps of the Lincoln Theater, absolutely. I was cringing watching these children walk around with the cameras. And, everything in me was sit back, let them do this, let them live it and breathe it and feel it. And to turn the corner and watch a student going, I'm sorry, excuse me, ma'am, we have equipment over here. I said, oh, they're getting it. Like they get it. You know what I mean? And so, it much of like what I said, it's not, running rogue, going guerrilla, and losing your equipment or resources in youth trust. It's more so about building a covenant, right, of achievement. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to get to do it. And this is how we agree that we're going to do it with each other to reach this point. Now, trust me, if there's a young person or if there's an elder person that does not want to reach that point of success or does not want to engage in that way, we experience that too. And that's when the mentorship part of what we're doing in music gets to become a part of teaching young people the lessons that they need to learn. It's not punitive, right? We're not, punishing them for being who they are, but we do take the time to sit and show them how the decisions that they could make in a better way could put them a little bit further ahead. And that's another big difference here at the musicianship with what we do, how we engage with young people, and just how we leverage the awesome staff, volunteers, educators. I mean, they're here all over the city. I couldn't start naming this list enough. You guys can probably rub elbows with someone at a show or at a bar, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I did something like this or like that with the musicianship." And honestly, I just want to use this platform to thank all of them because they're all a part of the magic. There's no way we can capture that down to just one person.
Thank you.
Jessica, it's been great. I know you're going to send me your organization information so I can pass it around.
Yes.
So let's wrap it up with just one simple question.
Okay.
What's up next?
What's up next for us is returning the Whimsy Awards in person. We're happy to produce our show in person after 2 years off, and we'll be taking that show to Ward 8 at the historic Capitol Turnaround, right off of M Street in Southeast. This is a big deal for me. It's just up the street from the 8th and I Marine Barracks, where my father was stationed and where I grew up, and just a few blocks from my former junior high school, Hine Junior High, which is now Trader Joe's, but still. In all things gentrified, I get to bring this amazing event to east of the river. And so that's what's next up for us. So you can follow us at The Musicianship. You can visit our website at themusicianship.org. And if you want to reach us with a more immediate urgency, you can send an email to info@themusicianship.org, and our team will usually respond within 24 hours to your inquiry. So we're looking forward to hearing from more people and those who want to just get involved or be a part or support what we're trying to do on behalf of the region.
Great. Jessica, thank you very much for your time, for your energy. Thank you.
This has been a pleasure.
All right, people. See you next Friday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye. Have a great weekend.
Bye.